as the New York Giants have officially introduced their new general manager. And guess what? We're running it back. He loves Daniel Jones. He loves Saquon Barkley. He does not like Deshaun Watson. Good afternoon, Evan. How are you today, kid?
Excellent. How you feeling?
I've been better. I'm going to do the majority of today's show standing up. Nobody wants to hear me whine and complain about it, but that's just the way it is. I've got the back brace on. I threw my back out this morning. I went to the greatest chiropractor in the world, my main man, Dr. Drew, and I'm upright. So I'm in excruciating pain. So for the next 4.5 hours, that'll present itself how it presents
At
itself.
11 a.m., Craig Carton was listed on the injury report as doubtful. But
Yeah.
I never doubted him for a second. His Willis Reed moment. I'm going to get him to work.
I play. I'm playing. Willis Reed didn't play.
Yeah,
I'm playing.
You're going to play? And
Yeah.
I'll be Walt Clyde Frazier carrying your ass.
So if you're a diehard Giant fan, you heard the general manager, either the press conference or on with the guys. Tiki and Tierney did a good job with them. A couple things. One, yes, I agree. He comes across like a very likable, decent guy. There was nothing douchey about him. There's nothing arrogant about him. So he is a likable guy. Means absolutely nothing as far as will he be a good general manager, right? Here's the thing, a couple things that I take out of it that, again, I'm not a diehard Giant fan. If you're a Giant fan, I think you have to maybe not be skeptical about Evan, but you have to be concerned about. Number one, Daniel Jones is their quarterback. That was made abundantly clear, not just by Joe Shoen, but by John Mara today, who said, and I'm paraphrasing here, we've done enough to screw that kid up already.
Yeah.
Like, what?
No, he's right. He's not wrong about that.
Okay.
Bad coaching, bad roster. Yeah, that's fair.
Right, so he's coming back. They love Saquon Barkley, and it's the same thing I heard Dave Gettleman say how many years ago?
That would be 4 years ago now.
We're going to fix the offensive line.
Right.
A better offensive line makes Saquon Barkley better, makes our quarterback better. Great. How are we doing that?
Well,
What's the plan?
The biggest thing to me was, unless he's lying to us, which he could be, a GM has a right to lie. They have a right to BS us for reasons of value and whatnot. He's bringing Daniel Jones back, and his words, not mine. We're going to build an offense around Daniel Jones.
Okay, great.
That's a headline right there if you're a Giant fan. And I know there are some Giant fans who say, yeah, you should, because you have done everything to screw him up over the last few years. A bad offensive line, receivers who are always hurt, horrible coaching, terrible coordinators, a lot of coaches. I get all that. I'm of the belief that I can't trust Daniel Jones to stay healthy.
Well, not just that, Evan. Daniel Jones is in an interesting position contract-wise.
Right.
He has this year at about $8 million, and then, of course, the team option for the 5th year of the contract for an ungodly amount of money for a guy that may not be a franchise quarterback. So if we're building the entire thing now around the talents of Daniel Jones, which on the surface I'm not saying is not the right thing to do, he's still in a 1-year tryout period.
Yes, yeah, because, first of all, no one asked him, to my knowledge, and I listened to the press conference, I listened to the interview here on the station, no one asked point blank, hey, are you picking up his 5th-year option? We all assume that they won't, for reasons that you said. It's an ungodly amount of money.
It's too much money.
It doesn't make any sense, but you're right. It's a trial year. That's
Right.
what this is.
So you can't make long-term franchise decisions when your quarterback, who in theory you're building around, is going to have a 1-year tryout.
Right.
Because that's what this year is going to
Right,
be.
and if you don't fix the offensive line in 1 year, if you don't improve the roster in 1 year, if you don't get the right offensive coordinator and system in 1 year, then all the screwing up of Daniel Jones may not matter because you didn't unscrewify it in 1 year.
Yeah. The other thing that, and maybe this is just my thing because I feel like in some weird way I'm attached to this guy's name, at least in New York, and that, of course, is Deshaun Watson. John Mara spoke, I guess, after the initial introduction to a group of reporters, and Joe Shoen doubled down on it. They are not going after Deshaun Watson.
Right.
They have no interest in Deshaun Watson, as they said, for a lot of reasons. One, current salary cap situation, and two, the allegations against him. I respect that. If, as an organization, you don't want that quote-unquote type of guy here, and that's just the way it's going to be moving forward, I guess that's okay. But what's not okay about it is if the new general manager comes in and he thinks Deshaun Watson is the bleep, right? He's the guy. And overnight, he makes you a really good football team, or at least a much better football team because of his obvious talent. I found it interesting that they're not even willing to consider it.
But neither did Joe Schoen, because he was asked the same question and said no.
Yeah, but
for cap reasons,
that.
we're not going to. Well, but wait a second.
How could you not even consider it?
But Craig, Deshaun Watson's not the only quarterback available this offseason, potentially.
That's true.
So you could also ask Joe Schoen and John Mara, hey, if Russell Wilson's available, you're going to go after him. Because you can't hide behind, the allegations. There are no allegations with Russell Wilson.
Right.
He's a really good quarterback. Now, they could have given a similar answer of no, cap space, draft picks, we can't do it. But I would have asked him, hey, what about Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
What about Aaron Rodgers? What about drafting a quarterback? Because I don't love the idea personally. And I know there are going to be some Giant fans who disagree, want to give Daniel another year. I don't love the idea of building an offense around Daniel Jones. I don't
think Giant fans do either.
I don't love an idea of saying, you know why Daniel never lived up to the potential over the last few years? It's everyone else's fault. And while there is some validity to that, the quarterback position is the most important position in football. It's the biggest decision a new general manager is going to have to make. The legacy of a general manager in many ways is determined by the quarterback they pick.
Yeah.
Ask Joe Douglas. He is linked to Zach Wilson. So right now, if you are the new general manager, Joe Schoen, is that really what you want to do? Do you really want to go into a season with a guy who's coming off a major neck injury? We don't even know his status going into next year.
Nor did anybody ask.
No, well, there's a lot of things that weren't asked. I got to be honest with you.
I bet you don't ask what the current health status is of Daniel Jones. Nobody asked if you're going to bring in a legitimate veteran quarterback.
That's another thing.
Nobody asked, are you going to at least have somebody come in that will push him to be the starting quarterback like a veteran might? Well, none of that stuff was asked today.
And by the way,
maybe that's why they didn't put him on with us. I don't know.
You said something earlier, and it's so true. We are all past reacting to a press conference in terms of appearance or pumping you up.
Because you've been burned a couple times.
We've been burned a few times. So here's what I'm reacting to. Here's what I think Giant fans should react to. The meat and potatoes of, okay, you're the GM, to quote Clint Capella, what you going to do about it?
Well, I think he was very clear that this is a GM that does not believe in, just flashing a lot of cash. He's a draft first guy.
He's right about it. I totally agree with him.
He's a build through the draft, supplement through free agency.
I am totally with him on that. I saw him say that this morning, even before his press conference, and he's right about that. And I also like the idea that while analytics are a big part of this team, he doesn't want to call it analytics because it's a dirty word, so he changed it to data innovation. I like that.
Okay.
Data innovation. Hey, what did data innovation say on that fourth down call?
There's going to be about half a dozen young pimple-faced kids in their young 20s who just graduated from DeVry who are now going to be part of the New York Giants front office. And by the way, that might be a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad thing.
So I don't, listen, there's nothing to dislike about Joe Schoen at all. I want to be clear about that. He's got a lot of work ahead of him. He knows that.
Quick question for you. Yeah. Because you watched it, I watched it, we all watched it, we heard it. I did take out of it how important, when asked about the coaching staff, he put a real emphasis on working together, being on the same page, collaborative. That does lead me back to the fact that he is probably going to bring in one of his Buffalo guys.
I told you that the other day. Brian Daboll's the new head coach of the New York Giants.
You're ruling out Leslie Frazier?
Leslie Frazier, and this is not fair. Leslie Frazier cannot get this job because of how the Chiefs-Bills game ended. Giant fans would have a fit if Leslie Frazier's the guy. Plus, a lot of fans would also view that as a retread who didn't win the first time around.
I think there's two reasons why Leslie Frazier wouldn't go over with fans. Not that it's fair or not. Even though the Buffalo Bills defense was really good this year, when Giant fans and football fans think about the Buffalo Bills, they think of Josh Allen. And they associate his turnaround from raw rookie to MVP caliber player. You look at Brian Daboll and say, hey, maybe he played a big hand in that.
Yeah.
I think when you look at Leslie Frazier, and it's not fair, I don't think you view the defense and say that's a Leslie Frazier creation.
It's the same thing both ways. People are going to overvalue maybe Brian Daboll because of what the Bills did in that Chiefs game, and they're going to undervalue Leslie Frazier.
I agree.
So there's two sides to that coin.
I do think that at least based on his answers, not that he's being 100% truthful in everything that he says. I know you can't be, because things still have to happen. I do walk away from this really convinced Brian Daboll is going to be the next head coach.
Yeah, so overall, listen, it's a positive day for sure. You got to meet your new general manager. If you're a diehard Giant fan, bring it. Love to hear from you. I hate to say this because I get no joy out of saying it. But for those of you who felt over the course of the last couple of years that the Maras have become something closer to the Wilpons than, I don't know, let's say the Steinbrenners, for lack of any other better comparison, there was still a hint of that at today's press conference. John Mara said something today. Now, I'm not sure if he said it during the actual his first comments or if he told the reporters afterwards, Evan. Mm-hmm. But John Mara said something today that if it was a Jeff or Fred Wilpon production, they would be buried for it for months. Okay? I'm going to tell you what it is after the break. Because it's a little nothing is what it is. But I got to be fair. I got to be honest.
You're a bad guy. I'll tell you why you're a bad guy.
No, I got to be fair. I got to be honest.
On a day where the Giant fans want to have hope, and we can debate the quarterback stuff, the roster stuff. On a day where Giant fans want to have hope, you brought up the W word.
I did.
How dare you?
Well, you don't even know what it is, though. Wait till I tell you what it is. When I tell you what it is, and I want to be clear, it means absolutely nothing. It is nothing more than a cheap shot that I'm taking at the Mariners.
So you're admitting that it's a cheap shot?
It is an uncalled for cheap shot. I want to be clear. I mean nothing by it. No harm intended, but I'm not doing my job if I don't at least make you aware of it. So I'm not being a Giant hater. I'm not putting the Maras down. I'm not saying they're the Wilpons. I just have to tell you the story, though, and then you can do it the way you want. But don't yell at me. Don't attack me. Don't tell me I'm just a Jet fan who hates the Maras and the Giants. I'm merely going to give you information. You can decide what to do with the information.
What Craig is trying to tell you is we report, you decide.
I don't know. Was that Fox?
I think that was Fox.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah. Again, so we'll take a very quick break, and then we'll tell you the story, and then we'll take all your calls. Is that a fair way to do this? The New York Giants have a new general manager. Brian Daboll's going to be their head coach. They'll probably announce it on Saturday and introduce him on Monday. And away we go in the offseason. Great.